Pluto bounded out one cold, winter morning with energy bubbling inside him. Sniff. He drew in great breaths of the crisp, fresh air, his tail wagging with excitement. This was the kind of day for adventures, not for snoozing in front of the fire like Mickey. With the frosty wind nipping at his ears, Pluto felt tougher and stronger than ever. As he trotted through the snowy park, his paws crunching the snow beneath him, he admired how the sunlight sparkled off the frost-covered trees. The park looked like a magical winter wonderland, and Pluto was determined to make the most of it. Then, his eyes landed on the frozen lake, its smooth, glassy surface glistening like a mirror under the pale winter sun. An idea struck him. To prove how fearless he was, he'd go for a swim. After all, what's a little cold water to a tough dog like him? He charged toward the edge of the lake with determination, his muscles coiling like springs as he prepared to leap. With all his strength, he launched himself into the air, imagining the splash he would make in the icy water. But instead of plunging into the lake, Pluto landed with a loud thud on the solid sheet of ice. He howled in pain and surprise, his paws scrambling as they slipped out from under him. The ice was far more slippery than he had anticipated, and he struggled to stand up straight. Pluto's paws splayed in every direction, and with one wrong move, he landed flat on his belly, skidding across the ice like a clumsy sled. His chin dragged along the cold surface as he tried to stop himself, his yelps of frustration echoing through the empty park. Just as Pluto finally came to a stop, something caught his eye. Through the ice, he spotted the face of another dog staring up at him. Pluto froze, his eyes wide with shock. Was there a dog trapped under the frozen water? His tail stiffened and his ears perked up as he barked frantically. "Hang on, buddy," his bark seemed to say. "I'll save you." The dog beneath the ice appeared to bark back, mirroring Pluto's movements perfectly. This only made Pluto more frantic. He barked louder and paced in circles, slipping and sliding as he tried to figure out how to help. Every time he inched closer, his paws gave way beneath him, sending him tumbling onto his stomach again. Finally, with one great effort, Pluto managed to wobble his way to the edge of the pond. He climbed onto the snowy bank, his claws scraping against the ground for balance. Panting heavily, he turned around to look at the lake, still worried about the trapped dog. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he spotted a familiar figure in the distance: Mickey Mouse, carrying a pair of skates slung over his shoulder. Pluto's ears perked up, and with renewed energy, he raced toward Mickey. As soon as he reached him, Pluto began barking and tugging at his sleeve, his urgency clear. Mickey frowned, confused. "What's the matter, Pluto?" he asked, setting his skates down in the snow. But Pluto didn't give him a chance to figure it out. He grabbed Mickey's coat with his teeth and began dragging him toward the frozen lake. Mickey stumbled after him, laughing. Okay, I'm coming," he said, trying to keep up with the excited dog. When they reached the edge of the ice, Pluto skidded to a stop and barked wildly, pointing with his nose at the trapped dog. Mickey squinted at the ice, puzzled at first, but soon his expression softened, and a chuckle escaped his lips. "Calm down, Pluto, you old silly," Mickey said, ruffling Pluto's ears. "That's not a dog trapped under the ice. Look closer, it's just your reflection." Pluto froze, his barking coming to an abrupt stop. His ears drooped slightly as he leaned forward to peer at the ice again. There, staring back at him, was his own face. He tilted his head, and the dog in the ice mimicked him perfectly. Then he noticed Mickey's face reflected beside his own, grinning back at him. Realization dawned on Pluto, and his tail began to wag hesitantly. Within moments, he threw back his head and roared with doggy laughter, his barks echoing across the park. He rolled onto his back, kicking his legs in the air as he laughed at his silly mistake. Mickey laughed along with him, shaking his head. "Oh, Pluto," he said, wiping a tear from his eye. "You've got quite the imagination." He set his skates down and began lacing them up. "Well, since we're here, how about I show you some real fun?" Pluto's ears perked up as he watched Mickey step onto the ice. Mickey glided effortlessly across the frozen lake, leaving faint trails behind him. Pluto barked excitedly, his tail wagging as he ran back and forth along the bank, unsure whether he should join in. Finally, with an excited leap, he bounded onto the ice. His paws slid out in every direction, and he tumbled onto his belly once again. But this time, Pluto didn't care. He barked happily as Mickey skated circles around him, steadying him whenever he slipped. They spent hours playing on the frozen lake, Mickey showing off his skating tricks while Pluto attempted to chase him, sliding and spinning across the ice in his own clumsy way. Every now and then, Pluto glanced at the ice and chuckled to himself about his earlier panic. The reflection of his face no longer seemed like a threat, it was just another part of the fun. As the afternoon sun began to dip lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the snowy park, Mickey and Pluto finally decided it was time to head home. Tired but happy, Pluto trotted alongside Mickey, his tail wagging with satisfaction. When they reached the house, Pluto nuzzled Mickey's hand affectionately. He may not have been as tough as he thought, but he had learned that adventures were always better when shared with a friend. Inside, they settled in front of the warm fire, the soft crackling of the logs providing a cozy backdrop to the peaceful scene. Mickey, with his favorite red scarf wrapped snugly around his neck, took a slow sip of hot cocoa, the rich chocolate warming him from the inside out. The mug was big and chipped, just how he liked it, simple, with a touch of nostalgia. Across the room, Pluto was sprawled out on the rug, his fur gleaming in the flickering firelight. His tail thumped softly against the floor with contentment, the steady rhythm almost like a purr as he dozed. The day was filled with laughter, surprises, and a bit of mischief. There were moments of play, a few wrong turns on the trail, and plenty of joyful laughter along the way. The comfort of simple moments made their days so special. Tomorrow would bring its own adventures, but for tonight, they were content.